Rewrite it, make it more casual, like a foreign student write, but no AI. It's a bit of a strange note to self. And when a line like this appears in a university student's work, as it reportedly did in the work of a PhD student at the University of Minnesota, how should the university react? To what extent can universities sanction students for using AI? And what would count as proof in such cases? Two recent ongoing cases, one involving the University of Minnesota and the other Yale, have forced these questions right into the courtrooms. Let's take a look at these two cases today, starting with the University of Minnesota case. In early 2024, Haishan Yang, a PhD student in the College of Science Engineering, University of Minnesota, was accused of using generative AI during a written preliminary exam. Faculty reviewers said that parts of his answers looked unusually sophisticated, used terminology beyond the course material, and included unusual acronyms and jargon. Yang denied using any generative AI tools to write his exam. He said his writing style was misunderstood because English isn't his first language, and that the university relied on unreliable detection tools without letting him properly defend himself. But the university was not convinced. Yang was eventually expelled. Yang responded by filing a lawsuit and human rights complaint accusing the university of discrimination, defamation, and violating due process. In his filings, Yang argues that he was treated unfairly as an international student and that the university acted on AI suspicion instead of hard evidence. The case quickly gained attention in the US and in China, as Yang is Chinese. On social media platforms, people debated whether AI detection tools like GPTZero or Turnitin's AI detector are reliable enough to decide somebody's academic future. And what's really at the heart of this case appears to be what counts as proof in the age of AI. At the time I'm making this video, Yang's case is still ongoing. Earlier this year, a Minnesota administrative judge dismissed one of his complaints, the one about data privacy violations, for failure to state sufficient facts. But his main federal lawsuit against the university and several professors still appears to be ongoing. Yang is seeking over $1 million in damages and also wants his expulsion reversed. So far, no final ruling has been issued, the case remains open, and it's being closely watched. Not long after the Minnesota story broke, another high-profile AI controversy erupted, this time at Yale. The student is a French national enrolled in Yale's executive MBA program. In the spring of 2024, Ranywayz's final exam for a course called Sourcing and Managing Funds was flagged for possible AI use. A teaching assistant noticed that his submission was unusually long, roughly 30 pages long, compared to about 20 pages from most other students. And the submission read highly polished and contained phrasing similar to what ChatGPT would typically produce. After a review, Yale's honor committee concluded that he had violated the school's exam regulations. He was given an F in the course and suspended for 1 year, effectively preventing him from graduating with his classmates. Rignol denies the accusation and says the university's investigation relied on unreliable methods, including what he believes were AI detection tools such as GPTZero. In February 2025, he filed a federal lawsuit against Yale and several administrators at the university, arguing that the disciplinary process was biased, rushed, and lacked independent oversight. He also claims that, as a non-native speaker of English, his writing was unfairly judged as too fluent or too different, amounting to language-based discrimination. In May 2025, a federal judge reviewed Ranywayz's request for a preliminary injunction, an emergency order that would have let him graduate while the case was still pending. The judge denied that specific request, but the court did not dismiss the lawsuit itself. At the time I'm making this video, the case remains active in federal court. No final ruling has been made on whether Yale's actions were lawful or on the larger question that connects both cases. Can AI detection tools really stand up as credible evidence when a student's future is on the line? Here's how I look at these two ongoing cases. This is just my analysis, my opinion. The most important point from these two cases is what counts as proof. How can universities prove that these students used generative AI tools? For traditional plagiarism cases, that's much easier because plagiarism is copy-paste, it's duplicated text, and it's easy to establish and prove. Even if the students try to deny, the evidence is visible and objective. But in these Gen AI cases, that proof is much trickier. In these two cases, based on the court's findings and news reports, it appears that both universities try to establish proof by using AI content detection tools such as GPTZero and by generating comparison answers with ChatGPT to show similarities with what the students submitted. The question is, are these enough? Will the court accept these as proof? You know, back in January of 2023, in one of my videos, I raised this very question. Would the results of AI detection tools stand up in court? It seems like, for that question, we're still waiting for an answer. And that's why there are so many people who are watching these two cases closely, because what the courts decide may very well set a key precedent here for future cases. Also important for us to remember is that, generally speaking, in these cases, it's not the student's job to prove that they're innocent. It is the university that needs to prove that the student did something wrong. The burden of proof should not be shifted. In other words, if a university wants to suspend or expel someone for allegedly using generative AI tools in an unacceptable manner, it is not up to the students to prove that they didn't do it. It is up to the university to prove, with reliable, verifiable evidence, that they did. And that's why what will the court consider as valid proof is going to be hugely important, not only for these two cases, but also for every similar case that follows. And here's another complication. Many universities today are actually teaching students how to use generative AI tools effectively as part of their digital re- and upskilling programs. In other words, the same institutions that encourage students to master AI are sometimes the ones punishing them for using it. It's a confusing message, and it raises a deeper question about fairness and consistency. And let us also not forget that technology evolves and changes fast, whereas university policies and legal systems are not so fast. So we're watching in real time a mismatch between how fast AI is changing and how slowly institutions can react. That's why these two cases, Minnesota and Yale, are more than just individual disputes. They are the early test cases for what academic justice looks like in the age of generative AI. I am definitely going to continue to watch these two cases closely and make further update videos as things develop, so please stay tuned. What do you think about these two cases? I invite you to leave your thoughts and comments down below. Thanks for watching this Ranywayz random video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.